out the gate here, who's going to be the National Player of the Year off this team?
The thing that will make one of these guys potentially one of those guys is how they're gonna handle the pressure of it, how they're gonna handle the adversity that comes with it. Like you look at like Hagen Smith was a National Pitcher of the Year last year, but the first outing he goes an inning, and it wasn't because it was cold, it's because he didn't pitch good. And you look at what happens after that. I think between the two, the first and the last outing, he gave up like 10 runs the whole season, and he decided that that wasn't going to define him. And there's going to be, Gabe Gackel's going to have an outing where it's not good this season, and he's going to have to decide what's going to define him. He's a talented enough player to become one of those guys. Like, he's got all the pedigree, he's got all the things that he needs to be one of those guys.
Welcome into the Hog Pod. I'm Bo Mattingly, and this episode is made possible by Calipari, Razor's Edge, a new series from Vice TV. Support for the Hog Pod comes from South by Northwest Hospitality.
He struck him out swinging on a curveball.
This season, Arkansas baseball fans have plenty to be excited about. With four standout pitchers competing for weekend starts, the Razorbacks pitching staff is loaded again.
I think they're all more than capable of being starters, but there are four of them. All four of those guys are going to pitch on the weekends. To what capacity is up to them.
Returners Gage Wood and D1 Baseball preseason All-American Gabe Gackel have developed into key players.
With Gabe, it's just going to come down to how's he handle all of it. Like, how's he handle all the adversity that's coming his way, because people are going to be gunning for him because he's a big name coming into the season.
The Hogs landed some big-time lefty transfers like Landon Battle Cheese, a.k.a. Cheese for short, and Eastern Carolina transfer Zach Root, who bring power and versatility to the mound.
I think people look at him and think like left-handed pitchability strike thrower, but he's better than that. Like, his stuff is really good. And
this staff isn't just about talent. It's built on bringing in guys who have the drive to do it all.
You can come into this building, just it seems like any time of the day, and you're going to hear a bat pinging, you're going to hear a ball being thrown off the wall downstairs, you're going to hear some weights being moved, and it's players trying to get better on their own. The more they can live inside of our system and make it their system, the better your players get.
Adversity will come, but this group is made to handle it.
They're going to have to go through it. Really good teams at the end, they galvanize themselves and they callous themselves with all these things that happen to them throughout the course of the season, and then they become a good team.
While the Arkansas bullpen features returners and fresh faces, the goal remains the same.
It does matter how we do in the postseason around here. The standard here is not to just get into the postseason. Like, we understand the expectations of this place, and we have to take that to heart.
In this week's episode of the Hog Pod, Hogs Plus senior contributor Clay Henry sits down with Razorback pitching coach Matt Hobbs to break down what we can expect from this year's staff. A lineup featuring preseason All-Americans, all-star transfers, and familiar faces. The full video version of this conversation, including a full breakdown of the Arkansas bullpen, as well as insights into how Arkansas staff develops their pitchers, can be found exclusively on hogsplus.com.
Coach Hobbs, it's good. This is an annual event. I think this is 3 or 4 times we've done this. And every time you make a proclamation that just blows me away. And I don't know what it's going to be today. But I think in 21, you said something about you're going to be writing a heck of a story at some point this year on Kevin Kopps. Pretty much called it.
Yeah, I mean, that was really dumb luck, I guess.
We didn't see that coming, but you did.
I think that when you're around him a lot, it's easier to see the progress. And especially with that year with Kevin, it was everything that he was doing lined up for him to be really good. And I'd known, obviously, his struggles are well documented from the previous year, but it was all different when we got back. And we tracked so much stuff here that you can start to see guys make some pretty good improvements. Last year's, like, guessing that Hagen was going to be pretty good.
I called that one too.
That wasn't very difficult.
No, but there's a little more data there from previous seasons, but still, Coach, I think we just take it for granted now that your pitchers are going to be good because we've seen so much data. We've seen so many All-Americans. We've seen so many drafted players. That speaks to good recruiting. I understand that.
I think a lot of it is getting the right people and then making sure that it's not just about trying to sign the most well thought of class. It's about trying to sign the right class in terms of the people that you know are going to come in and work, and the people that are going to come in and do the things that's required to be good players, instead of just, that guy's the highest ranked player, let's try to sign him. I think you can make a lot of mistakes that way. And luckily, Coach Van Horn's never really been about that. Like, our classes get ranked really good, but we don't really talk about, like, trying to have a highly ranked class. We talk about trying to find the right people to get in the building. And on the pitching side, we've been just really lucky, honestly. We've hit some home runs with some guys through the draft that we weren't expecting. This year's group is no different than previous groups in terms of that. But, you know, it was in 22, getting Hagen through the draft, or 21, I guess it was 21. It was getting Hagen through the draft was so hard because we didn't know. It was kind of like we didn't know because he was coming off of an injury and, like, what was going to happen with him. But imagine you don't get him through the draft, you'll lose out on probably one of the best pitchers in the history of the program. And some of that is just, like I said, some of it's luck, some of it's just trying to make the right decisions in recruiting, like you said. And, you know, obviously it comes down to player development at the end of the day. They have to get better when they're here. And today's day and age in college sports, it's easy to just look down at your group and say, oh, we'll just go add 3 or 4 guys, 5 guys in the portal. And that doesn't always work.
Well, if you do that, then you might be stuck with trying to recreate the culture.
Yeah.
When you have the holdover players and the continuity, and you have, you know, a 6-year player like Kevin that the culture, and you still hear, you know, players like Will McIntyre, I'm doing this because Kevin Kopps did it, or Kevin showed me this, and, you know, and it just rolls on, the culture of this place.
We try to say that culture is never something that should graduate. Like, it shouldn't get drafted and leave. It shouldn't graduate from your program. Your culture should stay here. And I think that having a lot of guys that have been in the place for a long time, at 2-3 years now seems like a long time to have them. And I think that it's really easy to just, you know, like I said, just look at your group and say, well, I don't like that and that and that about these guys. Let's just replace them with these new guys. But that's not really like team building. That's free agency more than anything. And, you know, I think people look at the transfer portal and these kind of things. I don't know that they look at it the right way. I think they just assume that you bring this guy in and he's going to be good because he was good at his previous place. And that works at the big league level when you've got 7 or 8 years of a career to go off of, and we've got 1 or 2. Like, you don't know if that was just the best year this kid could have ever had the year before, or if it's a fluke or what. And I think that you see that across the country. If you look at other sports nationally, it's like this big hit in the portal turns out to be a guy that's not very good for the next team, because you don't have enough information to just assume that they're going to be as good as they were at the previous spot. And if you coach your guys, you get in the freshmen that you need to get in, or the JUCO transfer you need to get in, or you know, the portal kid you need to get in, and it's the right one, then you can have a good culture and you can still make it about player development instead of making it about just trying to jump to the next lily pad. You just got to try to find a way to keep the guys on campus. You got to coach them and not have to worry about just trying to keep them happy. I think that people think like, well, we got to keep this guy happy to keep him. No, we got to coach him. We got to coach him hard to keep him. We got to develop him. He's got to see the end. He's got to be able to see the end. And that hasn't changed from, you know, when I was coaching junior college baseball 20 years ago to today. Like, the players still just want to get better. The people at the top, like the adults change more than the players change. So I look at it just like we got to never let your culture graduate.
Yep. So I need to explain. We're in the Players Lounge today. We're right next to the where everything happens in this building throughout the day, the weight room, the player development area, and they are throwing around a little bit more weight than I ever did.
Me too.
This is Nate Thompson type weight that they're throwing around in there. Every once in a while, the ground does shake in this room because of what's going on next door. But it speaks to the work that goes on around the clock.
Yeah, every time I hear those weights drop, it's just progress. Like it's
Yes,
not,
sir.
it doesn't bother me at all. So when it's loud in there, it's good because it means guys are trying to get better. And you can come into this building just, it seems like any time of the day, and you're going to hear a bat pinging, you're going to hear a ball being thrown off the wall downstairs, you're going to hear some weights being moved, and it's players trying to get better on their own a lot of times. And I think that those things are really, really important. Like, you can only do so much. NCAA rules only allow us to do so much with our guys. So the more they can progress on their own, the more they can live inside of our system and make it their system, the better your players get. Like, I try to be a pretty good pitching coach. I hope I am. But some of the best things our guys get are from just talking to each other about grips, about the way they're trying to attack a hitter, the way they're trying to approach their training. They get a lot of that from each other. And I think if you stand in the way of those things, you're standing in the way of pieces of player development. And one thing I never want to do as a coach, and I don't think our staff does either, is stand in the way of players making changes, bettering themselves, how they see fit too. It's not just about, what the coach thinks is right. A lot of the time it has to do with what is the player value, how do they see themselves. Before you can do anything to try to help them, they have to be able to help themselves.
So just put it on you right out the gate here. Who's going to be the National Player of the Year off this team? And it could be that it's not this year.
Wow.
I mean, we don't really want to hang that on somebody, but I got to ask it, right?
I think that you can look at the roster, and there's a lot of really talented players that could have options to do those things. And you look at, where some of these guys are ranked in their draft classes as freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and there's lots of candidates. The thing that will make one of these guys potentially one of those guys is how they're gonna handle the pressure of it, how they're gonna handle the adversity that comes with it. Like, you look at, like, Hagen Smith was a National Pitcher of the Year last year, but the first outing he goes an inning, and it wasn't because it was cold, it's because he didn't pitch good. Like, it was cold, but he didn't pitch good. And so he's got adversity, and there's a lot of people questioning. And in a 7-day period of time, a lot of people forgot how good Hagen Smith was, and they thought he was just going to be a bust because he didn't have a good outing. And he had to hear all that, and he had to deal with it. And you look at what happens after that. I think between the two, the first and the last outing, he gave up like 10 runs the whole season, and he decided that that wasn't going to define him. And Gabe Gackel's going to have an outing where it's not good this season, and he's going to have to decide what's going to define him. He's a talented enough player to become one of those guys. Like, he's got all the pedigree, he's got all the things that he needs to be one of those guys.
Okay, I think you just called it Gabe Gackel's Player of the Year next year.
Maybe.
Well, the development, that's what we
Yeah.
have to continue to see. And, adversity.
Yep.
There'll be some of that. Now, Hagen's adversity lasted 6 days because Oregon State would vote for him as Player of the Year.
I think they would.
17 strikeouts?
Yeah, he punched out 17 guys. But again, like, you could see that happening you can't see 17 strikeouts happening, but you can see that was going to be a good outing happening all week.
Yeah.
That week.
The bullpen was
The bullpen was really good, and just the way that, like, he attacked the adversity. And this team's going to face a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what on paper looks good or how excited we are about where we're ranked or where we're not ranked, it's like they're going to run into some adversity, and it's not going to be smooth because it never is.
Toughest schedule ever been attempted, in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems like it. On paper, it certainly is. So I think you make it as hard as you want to make it, though. Like, those teams have us on their schedule too.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah, you don't have to play.
We don't have to play our.
Top
we don't
five
have,
Arkansas.
We don't have to play the Arkansas Razorbacks this year. So that's one team that we have out of the way. But, like, we'll be playing the Arkansas Razorbacks all season. I think. Like, it's going to be more about us than it is about who we're playing anyway. So I think those things come down to how hard your schedule is relative to what you think about your team. what your team can handle makes your schedule easier or harder, not necessarily your opponent or where you have to play the game or the temperature that the game's played in or the time of the year that you catch a team at. It's about your team. And I feel like the things that we've been able to do with this group to be able to prepare them for something like this, a season like this, is the things that are going to make our team, hopefully, we hope make our team a good team, is what they've put in the bank so far. And then they're going to have to go through it, right? They're going to have to just, I was talking to a kid about this the other day who's struggling a little bit for us, and I was showing him video of some of the best pitchers to ever pitch here, freshman, sophomore year, and how they had to go through it. And these players just see the last year, like people see the last year of Kevin, the last year of Hagan, Connor Nolan's last year, Isaiah's last year, whoever. But these kids all go through it. And it's like you can look at the course of a player's career and then look at the course of a team's season, and teams have to go through it the same way players do. Nobody wants them to, but that's what really good teams at the end, they galvanize themselves and they callous themselves with all these things that happen to them throughout the course of a season, and then they become a good team. They don't just roll out of the rack and it's wire to wire and you're just great all the time. I mean, 21, we won every series we played that year. But we were losing on Friday night, like pretty much the entirety of the first month and a half of the season. We were getting our butts kicked on Friday nights until we were able to find ways to win. And that team had to go through it. And that's one of the best regular season teams I've ever been a part of in my life. And they had to go through it. And the team in 22 that goes to Omaha and is almost in the finals and finishes, I think, third in the country, couldn't get out of their own way all season. They had to go through it. Yeah. The team and I wasn't here in 18, but the team in 18 didn't win a road series in the SEC the entire season. So that team played for the national championship, and they had to go through it. And just like all these players, all these pitchers or position players, they're going to have to go through something, and they're going to have to find a way to the other side of it. And it's not always going to be perfect. And no matter what people want it to be, it is like that's life is that way.
So the baseball is always evolving, but it is still about throwing strikes, but it might be throwing strikes with more off speed or whatever. And I talked to Nate Thompson a little bit about this team. I mean, if there's anybody that knows your pitchers, it's your hitters.
Yep.
Because they've been thrown out there and asked to kind of cope with what your staff is. And they're trying to work counts. And he says it's strike one, strike two, every single pitcher. I mean, an anomaly is a pitcher that struggles because that hasn't happened as far as throwing strikes. So what makes up strike throwers, and why is this staff, and is it better strike throwing staff in your opinion?
I think it has a chance to be good. Like I thought last year's staff threw strikes at a pretty high clip at times, and then there's times that they didn't. So, there's some fluctuation with that throughout the course of a year. I think this staff has a chance to do it. I think the main things you have to do if you want to have a pitching staff that throws strikes is you have to get them to throw strikes in the right counts. Like just throwing a bunch of 3-1 strikes isn't as good as throwing a bunch of 0-1 strikes or a bunch of 1-1 strikes. And really getting them honed in on what are the counts we want to be in the most, and let's try to throw the most pitches possible in those counts. If you're in an 0-1, an 0-2, a 1-2, or a 2-2 count, if you can throw 40% of your pitches in those counts, your staff's really good. Like those are the teams that play in Omaha. Those are the teams that go to the postseason. And if you take away the gotta throw strikes mentality and turn it into let's throw the most amount of pitches we can in these counts. And get them thinking.
That's a whole different.
It's a different level of understanding, because a lot of guys go out there and they have once they can get away from just trying to throw strikes, and get them to here's about 5 or 6 counts we need to throw a large density of pitches in. We don't have to be successful every time we throw a pitch in those counts, but if you throw a ton of 1-2 pitches, a ton of 0-1 pitches, a ton of 0-2 pitches, and a ton of 2-2 pitches, the batting average against you is like in the hundreds.
So much more pressure on the hitter.
Exactly. And stacking strikes and putting guys in adversity on the offensive side of the ball. We like to try to say that we're going to try to suffocate them with strikes. They're just going to feel like they can't breathe.
This episode is presented by Calipari Razor's Edge, a new series from Vice TV. As a Razorback fan or fan of sports, you won't want to miss this unprecedented behind-the-scenes show with incredible access and exclusive interviews. Tune in to Calipari Razor's Edge, starting Monday, February 10th at 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Vice TV.
Okay, I'm going to go through the roster here. And I'm going to skip around here because I'm going to try to hit these top-end guys for pretty heavy. You've got 4 that are really vying for weekend starting rotation positions, which, we all, we get hung up with that a little bit too much because you're going to need a whole staff, and the innings, where do the innings come from? A lot of times it's middle relief. Might be a guy like Will McIntyre that's not a weekend starter but ends up doing something. So let's just go down, and this is numerically, so I'm not starting with one over another. Gage Wood Jr. Had 2 years to watch him and kind of watch his development. I remember the first time he pitched down at Arlington. And
I think most people remember that outing.
I bet he remembers it.
He does. That might be why he's so good now. I think that Gage, if you look at the course of Gage's career, he went from just being a kind of guy that went in there and threw as hard as he could all the time. And, he hoped things went well and wasn't a great strike thrower, but was tough enough to be able to get you out and was successful in the SEC. I mean, he was really good as a freshman, even though, like, the numbers, if you really dive into them, they weren't great. But he had a successful freshman season, and, you saw him throw a lot more strikes the next season. I think he only walked like 8 guys last year and led our team in walks per 9, which is hard to do considering he was maybe last on the team in walks per 9 the year before. So if you look at the evolution of Gage, I think you could be really proud of him in terms of, like, how much better he's gotten from year to year. He's really consistent. His work's really consistent. If you look at his body change over time, it's clearly he puts work in the weight room. He does a lot of things off the field that make him a really good player. He gets enough sleep. He takes care of his diet. He's a hard worker. It's important to him. He's from Batesville, Arkansas. I mean, this is what he's dreamed of doing his whole life.
He's a hog.
He definitely through and through. And that's one of the things that makes him great. And one of the things that makes a lot of these kids great is they identify themselves with the university. And I think that Gage is kind of is definitely at the forefront of that for us. But it's a super exciting thing for Gage to be able to be kind of in contention for one of those rotation spots. And, I think he's going to have a pretty good year.
Strike throw would probably get innings no matter how you use him.
I mean, all these guys you're going to ask about, these first 4 guys, they're all going to pitch a lot. It's just a matter of where and how. But they're definitely there's definitely a path for Gage to stay in the rotation.
Gabe Gackle. These guys that I think maybe some people around the country, other college coaches, we don't think he'll get to campus.
And we didn't either.
Yeah.
So he surprised us a little bit too by showing up. And I think that it's the same thing with Gage as it is with Gabe. It's when Gabe got here, he didn't throw a ton of strikes in the fall, and his fall numbers are actually something we use when we talk to recruits. Like, here's what happened in the fall. He had to grow. He had to get better. It wasn't clean for him. And now look at him. And he made a big jump from the fall to the spring. And, I think with Gabe, it's just going to come down to how's he handle all of it? Like, how's he handle all the adversity that's coming his way, because people are going to be gunning for him because he's a big name coming into the season. It's a lot to put on a sophomore, certainly. I do think he's a rotation arm, and I think we thought he was last year. We just had some older guys there at the beginning of the year, and he had to find his way. And he found his way to the back of the bullpen, and he was so good there, it's like you couldn't move him and take him out. I mean, there was plenty of conversations about moving him to the rotation last year towards the middle to the end of the season. But we needed him at the back, and, now he's in the rotation, and I don't think he's going to move from there. I mean, it's 4 pitches. It's pretty electric stuff. I mean, he throws strikes.
Upper 90s.
Yeah, mid to upper 90s, and there'll be days when it'll be a little less than that. There'll be days when it'll be a little bit better than that, but that's with everybody. It's a plus breaking ball. It's a really good slider. It's an above-average changeup. He throws enough strikes. He controls the running game really well. He fields his position. He kind of does everything you want him to do. It's just a matter of how's he handle starting, I guess, is the only question, since he hasn't done that here. And I think the thing that people have to remember when they say, like, oh, you're transitioning from a bullpen guy to a starter, well, we had to transition him from a starter to a bullpen guy And he's had way more experience starting than he has throwing out of the pen in his career. So I think he's more acclimated to start.
So just so people understand, every single position player on the roster at some point was a shortstop. Every single pitcher was a starting pitcher before they got here.
Most of them.
They weren't middle relief guys that you were looking at.
You don't recruit too many high school relievers.
Yeah.
Like the guys you're recruiting are the best player on their team, and high school coaches are smart and they want their best guy to throw a lot. So they're mostly starters. But like, I don't see any reason why he can't do it. I don't see any reason why he can't acclimate to becoming a starter at this level.
I asked a pitcher one time, a college pitcher, it's like, would you ever pitch relief? He says, yeah, every showcase. Yeah, we just pitch one inning.
Exactly.
He said they're trying to trot us all out there. But he said that's the only time I ever pitched in relief.
And that honestly, most of these kids are that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the lefties. I love left-handers.
Me too.
I just Zach Root, East Carolina, Florida kid.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you know about him?
I mean, Trey Savage was the Friday guy at East Carolina. And they talked about him and Hagan and Chase Burns a lot last year, so you knew who that guy was. And then it was always, well, they got this other guy too. And, you know, like randomly you watch a game and you see him pitch. And I did last year in the regional, actually. And I was like, man, this guy's really good. And then he went in the portal, and, I mean, I called him as fast as I could. Like, I saw that he went in, and then I'm on the phone as fast as possible trying to get his number, and then I'm trying to get to him somehow. And luckily, he wanted to talk to us, and I guess as soon as we found out that he had some interest and we dove a little deeper into what he was as a pitcher, you get really excited because how many left-handed pitchers do you have an opportunity to coach that are four-pitch guys that throw a ton of strikes? And I think people look at him and think like left-handed pitchability strike thrower, but he's better than that. Like he's got stuff. Like his stuff is really good. Like we've had him up to 95. I think he's been up to 96 or 97 in the past. He'll pitch in the low to mid 90s. His changeup is above average, well above average. His cutter is a good pitch. His curveball is well above average, and he throws them around the plate. Now he's not perfect, and I say he's a strike thrower. There are gonna be days he's gonna walk 3, and people are gonna look at me like, "Well, I thought you said he threw strikes." Well, you know, people are human, but
sometimes we get a bad ump too.
Yeah,
you didn't say that.
Umpires are, in my mind, umpires do a really good job for the most part.
Yeah.
Zach Root.
That was a joke.
Yeah, he's really good. Like I think he's got a chance to be a top of, he's a top of the rotation arm, and I think he's got a chance to do that here too.
Let me see. I'm going to try this. Usually it's just going to be Landon.
Just call him Cheese.
Cheese.
Vital Cheese.
Battle Cheese.
Yeah, he's a
Cheese. That's pretty good for a pitcher.
You have to call him that. That's what all of our guys call him. So I think Coach Van Horn always jokes he just calls him Landon, which is 100% true. That is what he calls him.
Another lefty.
Yeah, another left-handed pitcher that went into the portal, and we had a chance to recruit. We were lucky, again, that he was interested in our place, and we were definitely interested in him. He was a guy that as soon as he went in, 40 schools probably called him. But it's a really good arm. It's a low to mid 90s. He can run it up there better than that too sometimes. It's a really good, 2 really good off-speed pitches, slider and cutter, and his changeup is a developing pitch. That's a good pitch. He throws strikes. He's competed in the Big Ten in a good conference at a good school, and he's got plenty of experience starting. He relieved and closed as a freshman. I think he relieved on the Cape a little bit, so he's got some experience there too. The thing I like about all 4 of these guys is you can make the argument that 3 of them could be closers. I think Zach Root is like a starting pitcher. That's what he does. Not to say he couldn't do the other stuff, but I look at Zach.
Give you innings. Yeah.
Yeah, I say he's a durable starter. He's going to pitch deep into games. He's going to be able to give you some length. Not that the other guys can't. The other guys certainly can. But you look at the other guys, and it's like explosive stuff, and they could also close for you. So it's rare that you get guys that can do both. I think they're all more than capable of being starters, but there are 4 of them. So there's 3 games on a weekend, and they're probably going to be – their value would probably suggest they're going to throw in the SEC. Not to say that midweek games aren't valuable. They certainly are, but the value of the SEC game is probably going to trump using one of those guys as your Tuesday or Wednesday starter. So you look at all 4 of those guys are going to pitch on the weekends. To what capacity is up to them. Like the guys that pitch the best are going to pitch.
you know, if you have a great weekend and one of them doesn't pitch a whole lot, there's a midweek game.
Yeah, we'll see how
innings.
We'll see how we do that. That'll evolve.
Yeah.
Opening weekend makes it easier because there's 4 games.
So I'm going to throw out some names here that just are kind of fascinating by how they're rising. Their stock is going up. And I love lefties. Parker Coyle.
Yeah, he's definitely making a move the last couple weeks. Really, just the whole offseason was good for him, and he put on weight finally. He's always been a really skinny kid. And
yeah, it says 6'3", 185.
He's a little heavier than that now, thankfully. Yeah. He's done a good job in the weight room. Our strength coach, Hunter Bell, is the best in the business, and he does a really good job with all of our pitchers, but I think he's taken the challenge of helping Parker out, and Parker's taking the challenge of making sure he's eating enough food, he's training well enough, he's recovering well enough to give him a chance to be a guy that we could use quite a bit this year. The first 2.5, 3 weeks of spring practice indicate he'd be a guy that we would go to often. He's done a really nice job. He's thrown strikes with 2 breaking balls. He throws a cutter and a slider. His slider's more of like a sweeping slider. His fastball is a unique pitch. It's kind of got some sink characteristic. It's got some carry characteristics. It's a tough pitch to get on because of the other 2 off-speed pitches, and he's willing to throw a lot of off-speed pitches, so it makes his fastball play up even that much more. He's interesting to me. We'll see exactly how it all shakes out for Parker. He's always been a guy that's thrown it over the plate, which again makes him very valuable. But he's always been a guy that's been prone to finding a way to give up a hit here and there, and that seems to have changed a little bit.
Settled out a little.
It seems to have. It has to happen in a game before it means anything. He knows that as well as we do. So he's definitely a guy early in the season that's going to have opportunities.
So this is the guy that, if you go sit in with the scouts, which I did the other day for a little bit, and they're just hoping that he gets out there in these early scrimmage situations. They come to see this guy, Christian Fouch.
Yeah, man, he's again him and Gage.
6'3", 240, a big dude out there.
Yeah, he's
intimidating.
He's a monster. Him and Gage, their career arc is different but similar in terms of. Freshman year, they got thrust into a lot of stuff because we were so banged up on the mound. And their sophomore year, they got better. And now their junior year, they look as if they're starting to arrive into these potential, like Christian being a closer, Gage being a starter. And it speaks to the things we talked about earlier of, if you have a chance to coach them long enough, things end up happening positively for them. They grow and they get better. And Christian's one of those guys. And yeah, you got to give a lot of credit. In the middle of towards the beginning of last season, our director of analytics, DJ Baxendale, and our director of pitching, Zach Barr, kind of sat me down and were like, hey, how much longer are we going to let Christian just beat his head against the wall with this 4-seam fastball? And, I'm sitting there like, it throws 98 miles an hour. I mean, eventually it's going to get better. And they broke it down, both those guys. And this is where, as a coach, you have to step back a little bit and listen to the smart people. And those 2 guys are incredible pitching minds. And they're just like, if he stands in the middle of the rubber and throws a 2-seam fastball, this is what we project to happen. And so one day we're just like, Chris, we need you to try this. And he was tired of being not as good as he felt like he should be too. So he starts throwing a 2-seam fastball, and the rest is history. He starts throwing 100 miles an hour, and he starts locating better, and it gives him more confidence. And all of a sudden he's a guy. And you got it again. Christian deserves.
This all sounds real simple, but it's not.
No, because you have to, in my position, you have to realize you're not always right. And you got to listen to the people that are here to help. And Zach and DJ are so great, and they do such a good job. And I'm talking about them a lot, but Christian deserves
They're
credit.
in the weeds, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, these guys are – it's amazing that they're still here. It's a miracle, in my opinion, because they're so good. And, I know that they could have left us many different times, but they're hogs, right? I mean, these guys are – Razorbacks.
Well, they deserve their chance, so that's the
and
tough
that's coming.
part.
And it's coming for those guys. I mean, they're both going to be really good pitching coaches. They both could be right now, but like I said, Christian deserves the credit for this because he's the one that made the change, and he's the one that jumped into the deep end of the pool, and he did a nice.
That's a little scary.
Well, it's asking somebody to change the shape of their fastball in the middle of the season, and it's hard to do that when I'm sitting here saying on the computer you're really good. But against the hitters, you're not. And he had to hear that, and he had to do it and listen to it and make a decision. And like I said, you got to respect the fact that he was willing to do it, and then also become really good at it once he did. And he's added a cutter this year that's a really good pitch, and his split's always been kind of like this outlier or like mythical pitch on our pitching staff, and now he can command it better.
Are you saying it's an alien pitch? That's what we called Kevin, right?
That is. Kevin was just an alien, period. But yeah, I'm saying it probably is one of those types of pitches, and he's now got better command of it. He throws it with a little bit more conviction. He throws it a little harder, and we hope that that becomes a pitch that he can go to quite
Devastating
a bit.
is what the hitters are saying.
It's really hard to hit.
Yeah, Nate Thompson said they don't want to see it.
No, it's hard to hit. It doesn't do the same thing all the time. It's got goofy pitch metrics that are hard to explain. Like he's throwing the highest spin and the lowest spin pitch with that pitch. So it's like a 3,300 RPM pitch sometimes, and it's a 900 RPM pitch sometimes. And people would think that when I'm saying that I'm making it up for the sake of the story, but like this is true. It happens within an outing sometimes, and he doesn't know when he's doing it, and neither do we. But it's become a really good pitch for him. It's something he's more confident in now than he probably ever has been. And you get to see guys get older and get better and grow up. And I think a lot of these things, they take time to happen, and people want the freshman All-American. They want the Gabe Gackle story all the time because it happened fast. But Christian Fouch has a chance to be as good as he wants to be.
Well, Kevin it's a 6-year story for him.
Yeah, and they're all different.
Yeah.
Like the timelines are all different. Some guys are ready right away, some guys aren't. And, as coaches, you got to have some empathy for how hard this is. Like, this isn't easy, and it takes time sometimes, and it doesn't always take the time that we want it to take. But if it's a good person, if it's a talented enough player, if it's somebody that works hard, you have to let that play out.
South by Northwest Hospitality Catering, owners of Theo's in Fayetteville and Rogers, Eastside Grill, and Southern Food Company, has you covered for all your catering events. Whether planning a tailgate for a Razorback game, hosting a rehearsal dinner, or providing breakfast and lunch for a business meeting, you can contact South by Northwest Hospitality for all your catering needs, offering some of the best food around. Take advantage of their catering food truck for your next lunch event. Rent their smoker and have a family reunion barbecue, or elevate your experience with Theo's Cuisine. Whichever direction you're going, call on Theo's, Eastside Grill, or Southern Food Company.
I sit here and listen to you talk about character and good people, and you listen to John Calipari talk about the same thing, and that's the most important thing. And it's, I just wonder how easy or hard that is to do, especially maybe in seeking out portal guys. I mean, do you have time to check that?
You have people that you trust, hopefully, that have surrounded the kid at some point in their life that you can talk to about it. You can try to find out what's really important to them. The thing that we like to say about the kids that end up here is they wanted to be here first. They didn't want anything other than this first. They didn't come for the money. They didn't come for, what they thought the program was. They liked what we had to say, and they wanted to be here first. And I think that speaks to some character.
I think it does.
Wanting to be at a place and believing in what the person that you're talking to is saying.
That's a good decision. That's a good thought process.
Yeah, and Coach has been pretty open about this in the media, saying like a lot of the guys that came, probably had better deals elsewhere. And I think that that's probably true. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. And I think that has to mean something too. And you think about like character, and you mentioned, Coach Calipari about, he's had to deal with the highest end player in the country for 15, 16, 17, 18, really probably his whole career. And it does come down to character. It comes down to what type of person they are, because those are the only things that really matter when you're not around, is what they're willing to do, how they're willing to treat people that can't help them in life, like what they do to somebody that's serving them their food, like that type of good people. Like I'm lucky that I've coached long enough now to see some of these guys go get married, and you go to the weddings and it's fun. And, me and my wife try to go to everyone that we can, and you start to see like what type of person they ended up being, not how hard they threw. And you say like, wow, you know, this really did matter. Like it did matter what type of person they were. It did matter that we tried to help them grow up. It did matter that we were hard on them when probably no one else had been hard on them. It did matter. And if you have enough good character people and you treat them like your own, like as much like your own as you can. Like I have 3 children, and like if I ever send them off to somebody, I hope that they hold them to a really high standard and
Accountability.
And I hope that they just don't pat them on the back and tell them everything's going to be okay all the time, because it isn't.
This is the last question, and I know your reputation is that you really trust your catchers, and that means that you work with them.
Yep.
Tell me about this catching group. Ryder Helfrich, I guess, is the bell cow.
Yeah, I think that Ryder will get a chance back there to do it, and he's been really, really good. He was good last year, and he was behind an older guy last year, so he didn't catch quite as much, but he showed us a lot in terms of his ability to manage a group of pitchers. And I think that the thing that's important about Ryder and Zane Becker, Elliot Peterson, is these guys work in the bullpen, and they're down there and they're catching pens, and they're in the fire with them. You know, they're not just showing up when they pitch in a game and trying to figure out what they throw before they go out there. It's like they already know. Bobby Wernis does a really good job with our catchers. He does an unbelievable job. We've added Hudson Polk to our coaching staff this year. You know, he's another guy that caught for us for the last couple of years, so he brings some experience that can help those guys. It's a really well-rounded group. You look at, I mean, it's Ryder and Zane probably is your 1, 2, and then Elliott is your 3, which you need 3 catchers throughout the course of the season. And
unfortunately,
yeah, I know it's a tough position. It
Yeah.
beats you up, but you know, you look at Ryder and his evolution of what's happened to him since he got here. It's pretty impressive. And he's got a really good rapport with these guys, an easy rapport with them. He holds them accountable for making pitches. His conversations with the pitchers after they throw a bullpen is pretty high level. Like he can talk to them about stuff, where to set up, how they want to use the pitches, how they want to attack types of hitters. It's a pretty high level conversation. I just sometimes go over there and listen when he's talking to them. It's pretty good stuff. And you know, Zane's a younger kid that's getting better, and we've seen a lot of growth in him over the last 3 weeks. So obviously we saw a lot of growth throughout the fall, but we task these guys with doing a lot. Like we want them to call pitches. We want them to assist in game planning. We want them to be the general out there on the field. And, you know, that's not something that happens at a lot of places.
It's next level stuff, Coach. I mean, they're prepared for minor league baseball, and I've heard it firsthand. They're so excited to come here because they know that's got to be part of your recruiting pitch.
Yeah, I mean,
for a catcher,
it turns into it certainly, because you can make it into recruiting and it can help you. But what I look at it as is like that's how we win games. Like the relationship between the pitcher and the catcher is,
and with you're the third wheel.
Yeah, and I try to be as much of the third wheel as possible. Like those 2 guys are doing it. My perspective is from the dugout, and my perspective is, you know, years of coaching, and I can offer some experience, but I'm not the one throwing the pitches, and I'm not the one catching them. I don't have a good view of how the pitches move right away because where I'm standing, and how the hitter's reacting to the pitches. You can see a little bit from over there, but I've always thought it's like really arrogant to think that I can just stand there and dictate the game. Like that shouldn't be my place. My place is preparation. My place is helping make decisions within the game.
You may not know this, but that puts you in the 1 percentile.
I mean,
of
maybe
pitching coaches.
But it's like, think about how crazy it would be for a pitcher to be standing on the mound worried about what I was thinking about the pitch they were shaking off. It's hard enough to pitch in this league. They don't need to worry about me. Like I need to be the support system. I don't need to be the right answer all the time. I need to be the support system for the player. I need to be a voice of reason for the player. I don't need to be the one making the decision for him. Like I don't want to caddy my pitchers. Like let them make decisions, let them fail sometimes. Same thing for the catchers. Like if you call a bad pitch and they hit a home run, hopefully we won't do that again in 3 weeks.
Learn. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's fun to be a part of it, just because you can see a lot of like growth, you can see a lot of development, and then you start to see great relationships. And that relationship can't be built if there's a person standing in between them.
Well, Matt Hobbs, it's fun to watch you. it's fun to watch this program and all the different aspects, what Coach Van Horn's done. And you look back and see the championships, just in your time, I think it's 4 SEC West, 2 overalls, and we got to get that postseason fixed.
When we, and honestly, like
Coach,
that's something that bothers us just as much as it bothers everybody else. And it's like,
well, I'm trying to poke the bear.
It's one of those things that, like, it does matter how we do in the postseason around here, and that's important. And it doesn't matter how you do in the postseason everywhere, but it does at Arkansas. And that's the reason why the stadium's full, and that's the reason why we're sitting in a great building. And we have to take that to heart of how we're going to prepare this team, hopefully to be able to get out of the first round, hopefully get into the playoffs first of all, and then get out of the first round of them, because that's not the standard here. The standard here is not to just get into the postseason. Like, we know it's hard to do, and we want to do it, but we understand that the expectations of this place, and
everybody that comes in here, the Zach Roots, they understand
it too.
That's why they're here.
But would you want the expectation to be any different? No, absolutely not. And you wouldn't want the fans to be happy with the last 2 seasons at all. And neither of the coaches aren't happy, the players aren't happy. And I think that's been one of the cool things about this fall is if you have a good day in the fall, it's like, yeah, but what are you going to do tomorrow? Instead of celebrating the great day that you just had at practice, it's just like, all right, well, that was good. And we should be proud of the way that we went out there today. Like, we had a good scrimmage yesterday, but you see a lot of guys in the weight room today or tomorrow or the next day, and it's like they're trying to get better still. And I think a lot of that is just trying to figure out exactly how to manage this team so that when you hopefully you get to a position where you're going to qualify for an NCAA regional, and then how to manage the regional better. Because as coaches, if we're going to expect the players to get better, like, we should expect ourselves to get better too. So I think everybody's looking at those things rationally, and I don't even like.
It's a healthy.
I don't need, again, like, I think people would assume that we would get annoyed by those questions, but like, they're perfectly valid questions, and we should have to answer that, and we should have to find a way to be better. And I think we hope that's what's going on around here, but the proof's going to be in the pudding. There's nothing we're going to be able to do to change that until hopefully, again, God willing, we end up in the postseason.
Well, thank you. This is one of my favorite days of the year, and I look forward to watching the first weekend against Washington State, and I love going to Arlington.
It's a good one.
Well, the good thing about that is that if you're sitting next to the lady that says she pitched fast pitch and 17 strikeouts isn't that great, you can move to another seat, Coach.
That's true. It's a good environment. We love that tournament. I love that tournament. So much fun, and I get excited, just as excited about everybody does at the beginning of the spring. And I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you,
having me here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks again for joining us on The Hog Pod, a production of Sport and Story and Learfield. Please go to Apple Podcast or wherever you get podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review The Hog Pod. A video version of this and the entire Hog Pod library can be found at hogsplus.com. I'm Bo Mattingly, your host and executive producer. This week's episode was produced and edited by Haley Ordway. Theme music for The Hog Pod is composed by Sweet 25. Our supervising producers are Sawyer Radler, Kyle Parkinson, and Justin DeLille. Support for the Hog Pod comes from South by Northwest Hospitality. Visit them in Northwest Arkansas at Theo's, Eastside Grill, and Southern Food Company. This episode is made possible by Calipari, Razor